Hello and welcome to the very first of a series of video guides presented by Tourism NI. Over the next 4 episodes, we'll be hearing from marketing industry experts, giving you tips about how to get the most out of your tourism business. When we spoke to people in the industry, it was clear that you had an appetite for more information about developing a marketing strategy, so that's what this is all about. We're in Green Shoots Incubation Centre at Southern Regional College's Greenbank campus in Newry, home to i3. i3 is SRC's business support centre, which aims to help build better businesses by promoting and supporting industry, innovation and incubation. Today we're going to be looking at content marketing and social media. Everyone's online these days, but is your tourism business making the most of it? Alongside practical tools, helpful tips and examples of good practice, we'll be exploring why we need to create engaging content in the first place, how we go about creating it, and the importance of developing a strategy that will help you deliver relevant content to the right audience via the right channels to attract visitors to your business and your area. And talking us through all of that will be the Tomorrow Labs Head of Digital Marketing, Niall Toner, and their Senior Account Manager, Andy Jarvis. Also with us is Mags Byrne, Digital Marketing Officer with Tourism Northern Ireland. Just before we jump into the chat, it might be good to get a little reflection on what exactly content marketing is. We recently spoke to Dean Langasco from the Web Bureau to get his thoughts.
Content marketing it's just a term. It's nothing new, it's just a new terminology that marketers like to use to kind of describe a methodology. And in simple terms, really it's about flipping the old way of marketing in terms of the sort of interruption. In the past, the focus was about trying to get your ad in front of as many eyeballs as possible, or trying to stop someone in traffic with a big billboard, or interrupting someone with a phone call, or sending out a sort of spammy type email. What content marketing allows marketers to do is to think more carefully about what's actually really important to the customer. So it actually makes it actually makes businesses much more caring, because what you end up having to do is really get to know who your ideal customer is. What do they care about? What are their worries? What are their thoughts and dreams? What keeps them awake at night? What's important to them? What do they like reading? Where do they like to hang out online? What really would help them in their job to be better at what they do? So if you can create content that actually helps them to solve problems, that inspires them, that helps them to do what they want to do, then they're more likely to want to keep getting that information for you. So it's important for businesses when they adopt a content marketing strategy to help that customer still want to receive the information from them by creating more and more content that they send out on a regular and consistent basis to keep their attention, to keep adding value, to keep helping them. And eventually, at some point, because they've been so useful, that when they actually do need your product and service, which may not be right now, you'll be on their minds when it comes to that time. You'll be their first choice. They will think of you.
So that's content marketing, according to Dean Langasco. What's your take on it, Niall, and how important is it for the tourism industry?
Well, I think for the tourism industry in particular, content marketing is not new. It's just how people are now starting to consume content that is changing. If we think of days gone by, it would have been consuming content in a brochure or reading a guide to, Northern Ireland or the Mournes or something like that. There, you would have been still consuming that content. It's just how the audience nowadays are consuming content is changing. The big thing for the tourism sector to realise is that the content needs to be valuable. It needs to be something that wants to encourage your customer to come to your accommodation, to come to your restaurant, to visit an area. Therefore, you need to define who your customer is. Is it a family who are looking for a break in the north coast of Northern Ireland? Or is it a couple who want to go out for the evening, want to visit a restaurant, want to try something new? So you need to really have identified who your audience is, provide valuable content on a consistent basis to them, and ultimately that drives transaction, that leads to new business for you down the line.
You talk about the 7 C's in your industry, Andy, the 7 C's particularly involved in the planning process. What are they?
Well, the 7 C's is it's a framework for helping you plan out what you're going to do in your marketing. So the 7 C's are company, customer, context, competence, competition, content and capital. Content tends to be where the big focus is, but there's a few steps before that, which is really about understanding what the ethos of your company is and your business is, and why you're different, and why people should come to you. Why should they come to your restaurant and not the one over the road? Why should they stay at your B&B and not the one 2 miles up the road? Is it the food? Is it the welcome? Is it the view? Is it the dog friendliness of it? Whatever that is, it's about really being able to get that down and boil it down to some simple statement that says, you should come to us for this reason. And then once you've got that, you can drive that ethos through all your marketing activity. And then the next one is customer. Niall touched on that already. It's about understanding what your market is. Is it professionals over the age of 40 because the price point perhaps of your menu suggests that, or is it families with children under 5 because of the location of your B&B or your hotel? So really start to segment them and understand what problems they have that you can solve as a business. And they're probably the key steps of the 7 Cs. And then the rest of them, it's just about understanding and putting a framework behind who's going to do this, what can we write about, what can we create content about, and how much are we going to invest in it for what return.
So it's important to safely navigate the 7 Cs, Mags, if I can put it like that. I've heard a lot of talk about content calendars as well. What is that? And again, how important is it to have a successful content campaign?
Content calendar, I suppose in its simplest term, a business will know about already, because it's planning. It's all about planning your activity, what content you're going to put out there at what time. Businesses know what time people are going to be booking their holidays. They know what time of year they're going to visit an attraction or be starting to think about coming to an area. So look ahead, what's coming up in the year ahead, what events are happening locally, tie in with your local council, tie in with Tourism Northern Ireland's campaigns, their marketing campaigns, their events calendars. Find out, it's as much about finding out about what's going on there and making sure you're in, you know what's happening, and that you're placing your content at the right time.
There's lots of different options for content and getting it out, lots of different channels. What, in your experience, guys, are the most effective?
I think for SMEs, particularly in the tourism space, it is the social media channels. It is your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. And each of them offer particular benefits. I have my own food and travel blog, and if I take that as an example of an SME, I will use Facebook primarily to use to promote most of my content, because it has the bigger reach, it has the bigger audience. And when I'm actually boosting content, I can be very specific as to who I want to see that. I want people who live in Newcastle who have an interest in food to see that content. If I'm on Twitter, I tend to find it works really well whenever we're at events. So live events and updating people from events in the travel space. So if we take the 2016 Year Food and Drink, for example, when there are particular festivals and food events and food evenings on and banquet nights, Twitter can work really well for that. So if you're a small company, tweeting live coverage of what's happening at an event that you're running, or just jumping on to popular hashtags, so the likes of the Discover NI and Enjoy NI16, things like that there can work really well, getting on board with those to help potentially amplify your content. And we think Instagram is a very visual tool. Short videos, very, very nice photographs. You can obviously toy around with the photographs on Instagram as well, and that's where you really want to sort of showcase what it is you have to offer. What does your venue look like? What does your food look like? Who are the people behind the business? And really use Instagram from a visual point of view. So for me, each channel has their benefits, and it's really working to see which one works best for you.
I think another point is that visual mediums work really well across all the channels. While Instagram and Snapchat, for example, are almost solely visual medium, on Facebook and on Twitter, images and video work really well too, and they help you stand out and stand apart from just a standard text update. But just being aware that things can change, things can move in this industry quite quickly. So just because something was great for you now doesn't necessarily mean it'll be great for you this time next year.
What has worked best for Tourism NI, Mags?
Well, Tourism NI are on those main channels that Niall and Andy have both spoken about. We have our Facebook account, we have our Twitter, we have our Instagram, and as well as that, we have our YouTube. But as the guys have said, different content works on different channels.
I think the one thing with the tourism section in particular is people will go to Facebook, people will go to Twitter to talk about their experiences. They may not particularly tag your business or tag your region, but they will talk about the experience, be it good, be it bad. So as organisations in the tourism space, it is important to monitor what people are trying to monitor, what people are saying about you online, but also engage with them. If someone has took the time to go to Twitter or go to Facebook to talk about a great experience they had at your hotel or a great experience they had at your restaurant, take the time to go back to them, because that will they will be an advocate for your business. They will talk to their friends about your business. They're promoting it online, they will be promoting it offline, and people will see you interacting with them.
The content is a catch-all term. Andy, Niall touched on a couple of different types of content. How many are there, and how do you work out what's best for your business?
that's almost endless. You know, the videos, images, blogs, written content, whether that's social media posts. It's not just, people think content is a blog of a minimum of 1,000 words, and it really isn't. Sometimes you see blogs that are a picture and a paragraph, other times you see blogs that are 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 words. It's really important to focus on the type of content that works for your audience and the type of content. When you go back to the 7 C's, as we mentioned, content comes after competition and competence, and there's a reason for that. So that competition's there so you can understand what else is everybody doing in your industry. So you can have a look around and see, well, do you know what, everybody in my industry is tweeting photos of the food that we cook. So if you're trying to stand out and say you're a little bit different, if you were just to use content as, well, let's just tweet pictures of the food that we cook, all you're doing is saying we're the same as everybody else. You're not trying to stand out. Sometimes that works for people, other times you really need to do something different and look at different hooks that will help you stand out, which can drive you into different types of content. And it's really key when you're looking at small business that competence is factored into that. You really have to understand what skills the people have. So if you're not a great writer, written content may well work for your organization, but if you don't have those skills in-house and you don't have the budget to bring them in, then that's probably not the right way for you to go. So it's about going back and understanding what content will work for our customers. Will the pictures sell the story? We looked at the work that Finlock do in Fermanagh, and they do some great stuff by showcasing how remote and how cut off they are in many ways. You know, they used to see that as a downside to where they were. How will we get people to come and stay in such a rural environment? And now they've looked at it and said, actually, this is why people come and stay. So they use their photography and their imagery to show people how remote it is, how set back you are, how picturesque it is. And that's because they've got the skills to be able to do that.
Now, this is an industry full of jargon, marketing. Influencers is a real buzz trend at the moment. What exactly is an influencer, and how can they help your business?
Well, an influencer is, the way we view it anyway, is one of 4 types of customer or audience that can influence those who will potentially be buying from you. We see the sort of 4 profile customers as seekers, joiners, influencers and buyers. And I suppose many companies focus on the end buyer. How can we get more buyers to our restaurant, to our hotel? But you're missing the trick there in that the best way to get those buyers in a lot of instances is those who can influence them. And in the travel space, I mean, there are a phenomenal number of influencers, and it's, you know, where do they have their influence? And it's really researching just to make sure that you're using them for the right merit. So again, you know, you could be a local hotelier who wants to use a local blogger, who wants to use someone who has a big social presence, but you know, that's not really enough just to use them based on what is, you know, what can be seen to the public. It's how engaged is their audience. You know, you don't want to use an influencer who might have, let's say, you know, 20,000 followers online, because that looks like a good number. If those 20,000 followers aren't regularly engaging and interacting with that influencer, then they're of absolutely no benefit to an organization to use them. Whereas if you have an influencer who might have a couple of thousand followers online and has an engaged audience who regularly read their blog, who comment on their blog, you know, that shows that, well, if I work with this influencer here, they're going to put me in front of potential customers. They have an engaged audience. You know, it's not always solely, you know, your bloggers or your social channels. It is prominent websites. Can you build relationships with online editors, with online writers, people who can put you in front of a wide audience? And that's probably the biggest thing with influencer marketing or with working with influencers. It's taking the time to build that relationship. In many cases, it won't happen overnight. You need to just take the time, communicate with, you know, with the target influencer, communicate with the website that you want things to be published on, and start to build a relationship and build a rapport.
Does it require a lot of investment? Because obviously a lot of the target, the people we're talking to today, will be small businesses.
No, I think what people have to remember is they don't need to do it all. You know, you don't have to be on every single social media channel or every platform to get your message out there. You know, we often say to people, choose one and do that well. And then from that, you can build on that experience. You can see what works on, say, Facebook. Most people are familiar with Facebook now. They use it for their personal life, you know, so they know that platform, they know how to get the most out of it. Do that well, then move on to others, Twitter, Instagram, and try all of those different social media channels and see which one works for you and which one's going to get you the most, the bigger audience, and really to get your content out there wider.
Andy?
If we're talking to small business owners, I'd always advise start small. You know, a budget of £10 for a week is fine. Have a look at that, promote the content, try a few things, try different audiences, and just take the time to understand it. You'll then start to find some campaigns work for you, others don't. You'll find some campaigns work really well on Facebook and are a disaster on Twitter. And it's just about understanding that each channel is very different. If you like to give it an old school analogy, there's things that you would put on TV as an ad that you'd never use in the newspaper, and vice versa. And Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all these channels are very much like that. They all have their own little quirks and their own little understanding. So find a channel, as Mark said, pick one or two and do them well, understand their advertising platform, promote your content, because there's a lot of content created every day, and if you're not promoting it, it's not going to stand out from the crowd.
Andy briefly touched, Niall, on the importance of evaluating the work that you've done. Can you enlarge on that a little bit, and how best do you evaluate it? And I presume then you need to be conscious of the need to change if it isn't working.
Yeah, well, I think that's crucial in any sort of marketing format, particularly with digital marketing, where you have so much information at hand. And when it comes to sort of reviewing and evaluating performance, for me it's always important to go back to the very start. You know, why did you start to create the content? What was the primary objective here? Yes, this was great, it reached a lot of people, but did it actually get people to come into our restaurant? Did it get bookings? Right? Why did it not? Did we miss a trick there? Or maybe it did work well, and that way you can continue to create more of that content. You know, Google Analytics, not enough people use the information that comes from it. Free resource. You know, get that onto your site. Start to look at how people are using your website when they come. What pages are they visiting? What pages are they leaving at? What content are they consuming? How long are they spending on your site? And then start to use all of that there to feed into your next quarter, and start to say, right, we can see people are interested in this content. We can see they've come from Facebook. Right, how can we provide more of this content, and how can we use Facebook more? And really, you know, for me, the success of any content marketing plan is in the reviewing of it. So it is all about using the sort of the research or the analytical information that is there for you.
Self-evaluation is pretty key, Mags, and not that complicated, really.
No, absolutely. And, you know, it's as basic as maybe looking at your Facebook page. You know, how many people liked that picture you put up? How many people commented on that picture? What did they tell you about it? And also, don't be afraid to ask people. You know, you ask them every day. You ask people to sign your guest book when they leave. If you're an accommodation provider, you ask them to put comments down. You know, look at those comments, read those comments. What are people saying on TripAdvisor about you? You know, take all that information and use that to your advantage. You know, that's all free feedback.
Max makes a really good point there about not treating digital as a bubble. When people talk about reviews on TripAdvisor or Trustpilot and things like that, and say, what's the best way to generate more of these? Often it's in person. It's person to person. Ask someone when they, would you leave a review on whatever? And treat the two things as just part of your marketing. Don't just see digital as this thing that sits over there that's a little bit scary and you're not quite sure on how to interact with it. If you want to know what content to create, ask people when they come and check in. So don't just see digital as a bubble that sits over there that's a bit scary and I'm not quite sure and I know I need to do something about it. It's just all part of your business. So don't, integrate everything as much as you can.
Final reflection to you then, Niall. We've talked a lot about content and how important it is. We don't want to scare people off. So what sort of tools are required to start creating content?
I think for many people nowadays, the biggest tool probably is a mobile phone. And you think of what you can do with a smartphone for creating content, be it taking pictures, be it taking videos, be it editing videos all on your phone, accessing your social channels, accessing your website. There's so much you can do with a mobile phone. Try to take some video, try to take some photos, put it online, see what works. In terms of then sort of reviewing it, we sort of mentioned things like Google Analytics and your Facebook Insights. Use the information that's there. Tools to help you plan your content, things like Buffer and Hootsuite can save you so much time with posting social media content, and often that's, for small businesses anyway, can be the real sticky point, and the thing that puts a lot of people off is, how much time is this going to take on my busy schedule? Well, tools like Hootsuite and Buffer will help you with that there. If you think of, maybe you don't have the resources to invest in graphic designers or people to edit photos and to do things like this, use tools like Canva, use tools like Photor, use them to edit photos yourself, toy around with them, look at what works well, post that on your social media channel. And when it comes to creating content ideas, one tool I would highly recommend using is a free tool called Answer the Public. if you know you're talking about a restaurant in Belfast, for example, just put in food in Belfast into the hands of the public and see what people are searching for online. Because what people are searching for online, as Andy referenced, they're probably asking their friends about. You know, provide that information for them. And yeah, with video, as I say, you know, it's becoming such a prominent point of how people consume content nowadays. And when you see the likes of Facebook promoting Facebook Live so much, you just know that video over the coming months, particularly for the tourism sector, is going to be such a big thing. So, you know, don't be afraid to try and get your phone out and you know, shoot some video and edit video on your phone and see what works. And then as you can invest more in video, you know, look at the resources that are out there, look at the professionals you can use to shoot video, to edit video, to really put you in front of your target audience.
Thank you for now, Niall. So just to sum up then what today was all about, we discussed how to develop a content strategy, how to find the correct channels to promote it, how to assess it and to learn from what does or does not work. Hopefully we've all learned a lot from that. I know that I did. My thanks to our guests, Niall Toner, Andy Jarvis and Mags Byrne. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again for more of the same next week. Bye for now.